Okay, I'm trying this a little bit different with a little bit different camera. Oh, wow, it's coming in really, really bright. Okay, I didn't expect that. Well, now that everybody has spoken, I took a little break from creating a bunch of stuff and was trying to figure out what my content pattern was going to be. So I got to thinking about asking everybody, and it looks like once every 2 weeks for the YouTube lives is probably going to be what I'm going to do, getting to whatever topics people are asking questions on. I'll probably try to do one big video a month and then start using the YouTube shorts because sometimes there's things in my mind, questions I get asked, or things I'm thinking about. And it's not worth doing a 10-minute video on something that's 1 minute is probably going to be more than enough. Kind of like when we talk about why you shouldn't pay contractors cash or things like that. That doesn't need 5 minutes or 10 minutes. It needs two, maybe one. I can cut it down and put it in one. So if anybody has any questions as we're in the chat, just please throw it in there and I will answer it as we go. Don't be shy. I'm here to answer questions. Uh, One of the last ones I got in the comments was about the difference between the drywall banjo, the Zunder, or thanks, Randy, and the new one. They came out with a new one called the hybrid. So I went and I looked this up, and the hybrid is basically just a smaller, cheaper version. Sorry, less expensive. Hi, Karen and Dave. Less expensive version. It's like $60 cheaper and is probably more geared towards getting more DIYers involved. It's the same swivel head and everything. My old employee, Josh, who worked for me like for 4 years and pretty much became like family, he ended up taping a friend's house and he wanted to borrow my drywall tools. And in the last YouTube live, we talked a little bit about the myth of all the drywall videos saying, "Hey, you can tape like a pro, you can drywall like a pro," and I kind of want to poke a hole in that because Josh probably borrowed, I don't know, $2,500 worth of tools from me. And he was amazed at how much better it made things because he used to do it all by hand. When you think about somebody who's not experienced, going to tape or plaster or whatever you want to call it on their own for the first or second time, and you're going to watch a video and you're going to be able to duplicate what somebody's been doing for years, I don't think that's realistic. And I think it sets people up for a lot of heartbreak and failure. And I want to be truthful about what's really out there. So I have a basement bathroom project at my own house that I'm going to be dealing with. And it's going to be ripping an old one out. And they put a tub on a platform because they didn't want to chisel out for the drain. And it works. It's very dated. It's probably from the late 80s. So it's got to be upgraded. And I'm going to be working on that. And I had an idea just to start a totally separate bathroom channel that I think I mentioned before that is on my mind. And when I can get to that, I will. But I'm probably going to do that. But I'll be working on my own project downstairs and starting to post more how to's, which I mentioned before. But let's get to some of the questions that I've gotten recently. Now, I got two questions about the SaniFlow system. I had never heard of a macerator system, which is basically a plumbing pump. Instead of busting up the concrete and laying drains and having it connect all to your main drain plumbing, this is above the concrete and it's like a pump. I had to look it up and I got a couple of questions and I had to be honest, I've never put one of those in. I've never used one that I know of in terms of going to somebody else's house. And as a contractor, I've never put one in. So I didn't know what they were, but then once I saw it, I understood. So if you're looking at putting in a SaniFlow system or a macerator system, I don't know a lot about it. I would personally stay away from it just because I don't know anything about it, and it's not that big a deal to me to smash up the concrete and pay a plumber to put it in the ground just for the peace of mind of doing it. But what I said to one of the people, Angelo, the first one, and he asked me what my opinion was. He wanted to put another bathroom in his ranch style house in the basement, right? And he had 7-foot ceilings. And I said, I think the first question you want to ask yourself is, having another bathroom going to make your life better? And if the answer is yes, okay, then let's look at what does the Santa Flow system do? And in your area, is it common? Are more people using it? And how does that affect the value of your project or your house going forward? Say we're all concerned about the value of our house. And when the time comes for you to sell your house and it gets inspected, is the fact that you have a Santa Flow system or one of these macerating systems going to impact the value of your house? Is it going to hurt it? I don't know that. I can't say anything about that. I'm not a real estate agent. My advice to anyone who wants to know about what's going to impact the value of your home is to talk to your local real estate agent, tell them you're wondering what the value of your house is, and go from there. I do not know anything about increasing the value of your home. I'm a renovation contractor. I can tell you how much your renovation costs. I can't tell you about the return on investment. I got another question about the macerator system, the Santa Flow in particular, from Alex in Georgia. And he has a concrete. What blew me away with this was he had a concrete floor in his 1940s basement, and it's more popular in the US. Makes sense. Plumbing's all right. Thank you, Dave and Karen. Uh, his concrete floor was out 4 inches over 25 feet. Now, I had to read that a few times and I had to do the math in my head. So, for every 10 feet, he's out like an inch and a half. That's a lot. That's a big drop. And I didn't really know what to do with that in terms of just going forward. My first inclination was, he wanted to use a self leveling. And I don't think you can really use self leveling over half an inch. Once you get past half an inch, you're putting on multiple layers. And at that point, really, you may as well just pour a whole bunch more concrete and skim it with a top coat to make it smooth if you really want to do that. Because uh, 4 inches over 25 feet is a massive drop. You want to make sure that you're putting whatever's underneath that's going to be solid, firm. And I was just thinking, how would you how would you put a TV on a floor that's 4 inches out? Your TV would be tilted the whole time. Everything you're putting there is going to be crooked. So you really got to address that floor right away. Another idea I had is you could frame a floor on top of it. You could use 2x4s or whatever, depending on your ceiling height. But that really is, I didn't have a good solution for that, or one that was cost effective and DIY friendly, that was of low intensity. That one was, rip it up or pour a new one or pour on top of it. I mean, at that point, if you're interested in a macerator system and you're going to pour that much concrete, you may as well smash it up and put the underground plumbing in. But it makes sense that the macerator is more popular in the US than in Canada, just from that standpoint. The building code here, especially here in Guelph, where I live, is pretty strict. Say where I grew up in Quebec, the building code is, I wouldn't say less strict, but it's applied differently, shall we say. In Quebec, you are required as a tradesperson to be licensed. Everyone must be licensed. The only exception is if I, as a contractor, go and work directly for a homeowner and I do not have any employees. I cannot be a business. I basically have to be kind of a handyman or a one man show. I can't touch electrical. I can't touch plumbing, which is normal. Even here in Ontario and in other provinces, unless you have a license, touching plumbing, electrical, HVAC is not a good idea. Hold on a second here. Yeah, sometimes in my town, the sewer exit is above the basement floor, so zero intentions when the house was built. Correct. Yeah, my parents' house had the drain line, the main drain line, a foot and a half up from the ground. So my mom, who is super ingenious, we won't say she's a skilled carpenter. She cobbled together what she had and came up with solutions on her own. Was her own kind of, a lot of people refer to her as eccentric. Let's say that. She built a platform and we put a back flush toilet on it. Back flush toilets now are really, really hard to find and they're expensive. And it's not a fun connection, shall we say. If something goes wrong with a back flush toilet, you're going to get a lot of water and a lot of gross water coming back in through your house because it doesn't go down and drain out. It pushes up and the drain is above. So if you have a leak, it is gross and not pretty at all. So where were we? We were talking about plumbing, basements, floors. I can't remember. Somebody remind me. Uh, if you're going to be dealing with your floors, anything concrete, all of that, you want to just keep it simple. You don't want to do things that are going to make mistakes later where you regret doing it. It's very tough to go through that. I struggled really trying to find an answer for Alex that was not very budget friendly. Most of them are expensive. So those are the things that I dealt with. Going forward, well, I'm already run out of topics here. Does anybody have any questions who's listening or wants to talk about stuff? My project here that I'm going to be doing, I will not be laying a subfloor. I did get a subfloor, Kristen. That's right, subfloor, DMX subfloor. Now, if you are looking to install subfloor and you do not want to raise the floor too much, some of you may have looked at or heard of the DMX subfloor system. It's a dimpled membrane almost. It's kind of blue on one side and black on the other. It comes in 3-foot rolls and you roll it out and then you install your flooring on top of it. And the concern the person had was that they did not want to install a subfloor system like dry core or barricade because it was going to raise the floor up too high and they were going to find themselves in violation of building code where the floor meets. I remember what I was talking about now. Where the floor meets the stairs. Because your rise and your run of the stairs have to be the same. So they were concerned about that with regards to using dry core. So they wanted to use something thinner. So they wanted to use the DMX membrane. With the DMX membrane, it's only about a 1/2 inch to 5/8. And then it's really going to depend on the subfloor or the flooring you're going to use, the vinyl click. There was a period where the thinner vinyl click was what people wanted to use and what we used. And then we've learned over time that that is not the best one to use. We're using something thicker that's probably closer to 3/8 or 1/2 inch thick so that when you're walking on it, it doesn't compromise the joints and it splits apart. So let's go back to what I was talking about before. We were talking about execution of the building code in different places, different provinces, or it may be the same in the States, in the US, state to state. I don't know. But in Quebec, everyone needs to have a license and there are no inspections. No one gets an inspection. I can only work for a homeowner if I do not have a license, and I cannot have employees, and I cannot do electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. So once you're in that situation, there is a massive black market. I mean, there's already a black market for construction in general with so many people paying cash. When you take away the inspection part and you require everyone to be licensed, well, now you're operating on a real trust factor, right? We in Quebec, we called it guys qui fait de la jobine, like they're just handymen who get bigger and bigger and bigger and start doing their own things. A lot of them are self-taught. There are some great ones, don't get me wrong, but it's a very backwards way to do things if you don't have inspections. So for me, moving to Ontario where everything got inspected, it made things so much easier because the building code was enforced. Everybody was trying to stick to that. And it was easy for me to differentiate myself from other contractors by saying, look, we're gonna get building permits, we're gonna do this all properly, inspections, everything. And I built strong relationships with the city and the city inspectors and all the things I need to. I became almost encyclopedic when it came to the mistakes that people made because I would get to chatting with the inspectors, and they would tell me the other mistakes. And they were great because they walked me through my own mistakes and they instructed me how to fix it. Or as I was getting to certain stages, they said, hey, you're going to want to watch out for this. Don't do that. Here's how you avoid this problem. Here's what violates building code. And it kind of saved me from having to really sit down and read through the building code over and over again because they would just break it down for me and I have a really good memory. So then I would end up talking to other contractors in the neighborhood because, like we said, I like to chat. And we would get to talking about inspections and things like that. And I would learn from them and we would teach each other things that we didn't know. And if there was something that came up that we were confused by, then we could go and either look at the code book, which I didn't do, or call an inspector or write to a plans examiner via email and get clarification. And here where I live, they are super, super strict on that. Like Guelph is one of the most uptight places, but they're also one of the best at giving me detailed answers so that now I can educate myself along the way. Now, what the problem becomes when you're always having inspections is the liability. This is probably super boring to a lot of people, but the liability is shared between the contractor and the municipality or the province inspecting. So here's how that scenario goes. And somebody can jump in if I'm boring you to death or if you've heard this before. You hire a contractor. They do the work, everything it gets inspected, everything goes fine, and then something goes wrong and you have to get money from the contractor. You have to enforce your warranty. Now they will not enforce the warranty. They did something that was against building code and they hid it despite the inspection. Your contractor, then you decide now you're going to sue them and they say, nope, we're bankrupt. Well, here's the deal. Because the municipality inspected it, they hold the liability. So say you can only get $100,000 from your contractor and then you're suing for 500. Well, guess who's picking up the other 400? The municipality, because they inspected it. They said, this is good. We're okay with it. They signed off on it and it failed. They are now liable. That was becoming a problem. That was costing a lot of money. So they tried to get out of it and they wanted to move to the system like Quebec, where everybody was licensed. Well, here in Ontario and other provinces, carpentry is a voluntary trade. And I'll use that as an example. Voluntary meaning if I want to be a licensed carpenter, I can go challenge the test. And if I pass, I am a licensed carpenter. I do not have to follow the same accreditation as plumbing, HVAC, electrical, sheet metal. Here's a hairdressing. They need to get a license. Carpenters don't. Why does this matter? Okay. It matters because there are hundreds, if not thousands, of carpenters out there who are not licensed, which doesn't mean they're good. Being licensed doesn't mean anything because they've hired a bunch of licensed carpenters and fired them because they couldn't hang a door. So you have all these carpenters out there framing houses in the winter. How are you going to make them licensed? You can't all of a sudden and say, boom, you need to get a license or you can't work. Construction would grind to a halt. The whole industry would fall apart for new homes and renovations, right? So now you have that problem. So what if you are one of the guys who says, you know what, no problem, I'll go take the test? Great. How many of those guys are not going to take the test? How many of them are going to fight it? And I say guys because in reality right now, I think 90+% of carpenters are male. And I know some great female carpenters, and I really hope there are more because in the trades, we are slowly getting asphyxiated by the lack of people coming into the trades. And we're going to see more and more problems getting people, and costs are going to go up. But I'm sidetracking here. So the reason they want to get out of, or municipalities in Ontario wanted to get out of doing inspections, is they're liable and they were eating their socks on this. That has kind of fallen by the wayside of late. I have not heard much talk of that from anyone. So I think we're stuck with the system we have, and then I think what is it Winston Churchill said, our system is the worst except for everybody else's. So we could move to another system. It's still going to have problems. Quebec, massive black market. I personally like the system of inspections because I can get it done, get it inspected, and I never have to think about it again because I know it's done right. That's everything for that. I saw a video, and I think one of the first things that I'm going to start to cover as I get going in mine, or I think the next video I'm going to make is going to be about my sort of favorite tools, or maybe we could just talk about it here. My favorite tools, or the tools I can't live without, are not really tools that are, an impact driver or a circular saw. I'm still of the opinion that your best tools, like the best impact driver, is the one you already own. If you already own the tool and it works, don't get caught up with, buying something new. There's a lot of tools you're going to need. I know I've talked in the past about wanting to rent tools when you can. There are some people who kind of disagree with that because you never know how many times you're going to rent it. Something was said also about, buy a cheap version of it. I am not a fan of buying cheap tools. You can always resell it, buy something good, buy something that's going to work. I may be repeating myself on this, but I'm a big fan of that. So why don't we just get into the tools that I think I can't live without? I have a rolling scaffold, this 4-foot rolling scaffold. We call it a baker. I probably will make a video of this and I'll probably put images and everything on it. It's a rolling scaffold, 4 wheels. It's got two little metal decks. It's about 4 feet wide. The decks, it can be a bench, it can be a ladder. I typically, at the end of the day on my job sites, I put all my tools on it and wheel it around to keep the site clean. So my tools all go there. It is without a doubt one of my favorite tools. It's about $200. Maybe it's 250 now with inflation because we're all getting hosed on that. It is worth every penny. I use it a ton. And I don't think, even if I'm not going to do another project, I would not sell that tool because it just makes my life easier. I can put my chop saw on it. If I don't have a stand, I can use it to throw all the 2x4s on and roll them around wherever I'm working. I can put my vacuum on it and all my toolboxes. Whatever I need goes onto that, and it's magical. You can buy a store-bought one or a store brand one, or you can get, the one that Home Depot has. It's really, I think if you Google mini scaffold, you'll see it, and Home Depot will have it for sure. It's a great little tool. The next one is real simple. It's a laser level. The DeWalt laser level, the basic one that's like $140 or $160. That's the one I have. I would never get another one. I got the really inexpensive, I don't want to say cheap, inexpensive Bosch laser level. It wobbles too much. It's harder to keep steady. The DeWalt one has a nice weight to it, has a magnet on the back of it. It has, the batteries are easy to change, and it's much easier to maneuver on a fine level to hit your points, whether it's plumber or level. For you hanging doors, bulkheads, framing walls. I really use it for being able to see the floor joist. One of the things when you're framing a wall is you're going to put it on the ground, and sure, it'll show you the line on the floor, but what you want to pay attention to is the line going up to the ceiling, because you need to connect your top plate. And if there's ductwork there or wires or whatever it is, the laser kind of takes it makes it brainless because you just follow the laser line and you're like, oh, I can't screw into that, or I got to back frame that or something. It's awesome. Highly worth it. Never regret it. I mean, even at the end of the day, if you just use it to hang pictures after you're done the project, $140 or $60 Canadian, I'm talking, for that to do your basement, which is going to be a $40,000 project potentially if you do it yourself. It's worth it to make your life that much better and have a better end product. And it will make your end product better just for framing alone. Never mind, like you could use it for laying your laminate floor, right? You want to find the straight lines off from your stairs so that everything looks great. Okay, well, the laser is going to help you do that. Next, after that, I have these earplugs. They're yellow on top, and they're just earplugs. When you're working in a basement, you're using drills, saws. The sound bounces off the walls, and if you're not used to it, it's going to give you a headache. You're going to be down there for hours. The ear protection for me really was what I go for. It's funny because I don't wear goggles. I don't wear glasses. So apparently my hearing is more important than my eyes, which doesn't make any sense. But that's just me. Maybe it's because I got the ninja reflexes to close my eyes fast enough before the splinters get in, but I don't know if that's the case. So those little earbuds, I mean, they're probably 15 bucks. I use those. Um, the yellow ones. I don't know the brand name. And so that's the next one. There's two more that come in that are uh, really basic and they're kind of boring. One is a vacuum. If my wife had any idea how much I vacuum, she would be stunned because on my work sites, I was vacuuming constantly to try to keep it clean because I can't keep my life clean, as you can see by the room. But I try to keep the construction sites clean or my work sites clean because every time you show up and it's a mess, it's just a gong show in your head, and it makes it difficult for you to stay organized and on task. My opinion is the rigid vacuum available at Home Depot is what you want to get. Don't get a shop vac. I don't know how else to say that. I've bought so many shop vacs and they don't last. The rigid vacuum, using it every day. So we're talking about 250 work days a year. It would last a year. Shop vac, 3 months, I'm buying a new one. Doesn't matter which one, buying a new one. So the danger or the downside to the rigid is you kind of got to get it at Home Depot and you got to get the bags at Home Depot. That kind of sucks, but otherwise it's fine. After that, I highly recommend a radio. You're going to be down there working. You're going to need some tunes or podcasts or something to listen to or whatever, me to listen to. Who cares? A radio is way better, in my opinion, than headphones or earbuds while you're working because you're probably going to need to hear somebody talking to you. You need to be more aware of your surroundings. When you have the earbuds in, at least for me, I tend to forget that maybe there's other people around and I'm really locked in and somebody will come around and scare the living crap out of me, or I won't be paying attention. I'll have a tool in my hand and I'll hit somebody. So I'm more of a fan of the radio. The DeWalt radio that used to have the battery charger in it was like always on sale for like $199. And now they're like 300 bucks. So I would say a radio of whatever kind you want to get is better to have. And the radio you just put on the window, turn it on, leave it there, and it makes your life better. You don't have to worry about where my phone is or where your headphones are or dropping one. You just turn the radio on and go. Or you sync your phone to the radio. A lot of them have Bluetooth. The little DeWalt one that's about 100 bucks, I think. That one is about 100 is has Bluetooth. So you can put your Spotify or podcasts or whatever you want to listen to on it. Most of my tools are DeWalt just from sheer compatibility. It has really nothing to do with is DeWalt better than everybody? No, it's reliable, easy to get. My local hardware store warranties it. I get it. The other tool that I think you really want to get that's going to, or tools, they're extension poles. They're these little yellow, not little, they come in different lengths. They're adjustable extension poles that I use to section off plastic. So, say in my project downstairs, the furnace is going in. I demoed the kitchen, but I didn't demo the rest of the bathroom. So I put, or basement, more bathroom, or any of that. So in the opening, I took 6 mil poly, ran it along, and instead of stapling it all in, I just used the extension poles to section it off. The extension poles also can help if you're hanging drywall by yourself. So if you're able to get the sheet up, have the extension pole there, I would pull one extension pole with it up, usually using my head to hold up the sheet, slide the pole over, push it up, take the other pole, push it up, screw it in, see you later. It was probably, when I figured out how to do that, it was amazing. So those extension poles are the other one. They run about $50 Canadian a piece. So you get two of those, it's gravy. On that note, we've hit our 30 minutes. I've probably rambled on too long and wasn't very organized in all of this, and it may have repeated myself from other episodes. If anybody has any questions, you may as well throw them in now. If you don't, I'm going to wish you a good night. I'm going to thank you for stopping by, and I'm going to say good luck on your project.